call this meeting to order of the Howell Township Planning Board. Eileen, read the opening statement, please.
Howell Township Planning Board meeting, August 2nd, 2018. I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Planning Board to be open. Adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on January 19th, 2018, a copy of said notice was mailed to the Star Ledger and the Tri-Town News. Second, on January 19th, 2018, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on January 19th, 2018, said notice was posted in the office of the Planning Board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code and your safety, please be advised that this facility is designed with 2 emergency exits, which are on your right at the front and rear of the meeting room. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Call the roll.
Mr. Husser?
Here.
Chief Kudrick has been excused. Mr. Russo?
Here.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mr. Tannenhouse has been excused. Mr. Boyle?
Here.
Mr. Seaman?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Castro has been excused, and Mayor Berger has been excused. Chairman Nash?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Okay. I ask if we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for our first responders. Paul? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll just move right down to review of submission waivers before the board. First application is case number SP 1046, Bank of America. It's a minor site plan. It's an application of Bank of America as applicant and 3 Wire LLC as owner, seeking minor site plan approval to replace an existing teller window with a drive-up ATM on premises known as Block 54.1, Lot 9, 4005 U.S. Highway North. Counselor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Just hold on one second. We have a wireless mic also.
Oh,
Well, this is for submission waivers?
Yeah.
I think this is going to be probably less involved than you geared up for.
okay.
But
Better prepared than not.
better than the alternative. So, okay, go ahead, Counsel, after your
Sorry.
appearance.
Scott Collins from the law firm Riker Danzig on behalf of the applicant, Bank of America. And I have to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what the board's procedure is for this. We did come prepared to discuss the plan if you wanted us to, or
Well,
address the reason for the request
Yeah,
for the
tonight's
waivers.
just for the submission waivers, and we do it this way because at one point in time, what was happening was applicants were coming, they didn't have a decision on submission waivers, they came all geared up, and then they were sent home because they weren't given submission waivers. So we do it
Understood.
this way now, so that nobody's wasting their time and money with lots of professionals. So tonight is just merely the submission waivers, it's not a noticed hearing. What our practice is that our board engineer will go through, and if she picks one up that is of consequence or objectionable, we'll discuss it. Otherwise, we'll just move through it quickly.
Okay, thank you.
So, Laura, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, we have a report dated July 26, 2018. The submission waivers are specifically enumerated on page 3, item 4. There are 3, and given the scope of the application, this is the existing bank, it's modifications for the drive-through area, I take no exception to the granting of these submission waivers for the purposes of deeming the application complete.
Thank you.
And again, just so the applicant is aware, it's a decision just on whether these need to be submitted in order to get your application started. If it turns out during the course of the hearing that the information becomes necessary, the board would still reserve the right to require it at that time.
Understood.
Okay, so hearing that, you have anything else to add, counsel?
I would just agree that the minor nature of the application, I think that the grant of the waivers is appropriate.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Does the board have any questions of the applicant?
None.
None? Gentlemen, can I have a motion then, please?
Make a motion to approve the submission waivers for case number SP 1046.
Second?
Mr. Husser?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Chairman Nash?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We'll be prepared to beat you up the next time you come.
Thank you all very much.
Is there a hearing date for the next meeting?
You can contact Eileen's office tomorrow. There's also, you'll meet with the board's professionals prior as well.
Sounds good.
Thank you all.
Oh, 7.
Okay, the next application is case number SP 996X, Quality Plaza LLC. It's for an extension of time. Application of Quality Plaza LLC as applicant and owner seeking one-year extension of time on premises and final site plan approval granted on February 5th, 2015 to decrease the area of storage/warehouse space and provide additional retail area, as well as reconfiguring the existing parking and loading areas on premises known as Block 25, Lot 19, 6521-6529, US Highway 9 North. Counselor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, board's professionals, and public. My name is Kenneth Pape, and I have the privilege and opportunity to represent your applicant. Mr. Chairman, we were before this board in 2015, presenting this property to the board for their consideration. There are existing buildings on the property. There were buildings that had been built many years ago, and they were primarily used, the front portion of the property was used retail, and it had a considerable storage element in the main building. And we asked for permission to use more of the front building for retail purposes, which was actually more consistent with the zone. The storage warehouse was not consistent. And the board granted the approval with considerable requirements of new parking lot, new circulation, new loading zone, new landscaping, new lighting, bollards across the front, and bringing the sanitary sewer line in to remove the septic. There were some complex approvals that followed, not the least of which, to our surprise, was the DOT approval. As we stand before you tonight, we have every approval in place. In fact, the only item that's not complete is we're waiting for a final bond estimate from Mr. Savino's office on the sewer, and then the project will be 100% complete. The approval that was granted was for preliminary and final approval at the same time, so instead of having the 3-year approval that goes with a preliminary, we only had 2. And it has expired. As we stand here tonight, we're asking for 2 one-year extensions because one is necessary to get us reapproved and one through 2019. We have every expectation that the work will be performed, if not this fall, early spring. And Mr. Chair, it's the first time your applicant comes before you, but does so having secured every other approval and permit.
So then, Mr. Pape, you're saying the rationale for the extension of time is because of the time that was necessary to secure all the approvals?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's accurate.
Laura, any comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Mr. Chair, just for members of the board, what a board looks for in these types of applications is that the applicant diligently pursued and was securing outside agency approvals and complying with conditions of approval. Mr. Pape has testified that there were a lot of conditions that were associated with this application that the applicant during this time period has complied with, and it took some time, but all outside agency approvals have been secured. So those are the types of elements that a board looks for in determining whether to grant an extension or not.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions of the applicant? None?
How long are you requesting, Mr. Pape?
1 year forward. I mean, it's a two one-year extensions, and it's because one of the years is necessary for us to be reinstated through tonight, and then 1 year forward.
So what happens, they were approved in 2015, so their period of vested rights would have expired on March 5th, 2017. So the first one-year extension gets them to March 5th, 2018. The second one-year extension gets them to March 5th, 2019.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve two one-year extensions for case number SP 996X.
Second.
Mr. Husser?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
And Chairman Nash.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Good
Good
luck.
night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next applicant is case number SP 941A, Walmart Real Estate Business Trust. It's minor site plan / sign variation. Application of Walmart Real Estate Business Trust as applicant and owner seeking minor site plan and sign variation to replace 4 existing building-mounted signs and erect 2 additional building-mounted signs along Route 9 facing facade on premises known as Block 74, Lot 9.02, US 9 South at the intersection of Lanes Mill Road and Kent Road. Eligible voters on this would be Mr. Russo, Mr. Seaman, and myself.
Oh, is that what you were talking about? Okay. So, Ms. Mazway, I didn't realize that. Do you have a position on that?
Well, I was actually looking before the meeting started, as I saw that not everybody was going to be here. So if I could ask for an interpretation from the attorney, would I need majority of the 3, or would I need all 3, as 5 were the
I think-
original voting members?
I would need a few moments to take a look at it, but what I think is, we have a quorum, certainly, because no one is ineligible to participate. But we only have 3 who can vote. Mr. Chair, I didn't realize that when we first sat down. We could probably take like a 10-minute recess. We can take a look at it, and Ms. Mazaway and I can come to some sort of resolution of the issue.
Sure.
Okay. You want to take the recess now?
Yeah.
Or do you want it at the break?
Well, if it turns out that we can't take the vote tonight, I don't know that the applicant's going to want to move forward tonight
Okay.
anyway.
All right. We're going to take a 10-minute break as the attorneys brainstorm on how we're going to move forward. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order again.
The planning board will now reconvene.
Just so the public knows, the applicant has made the decision to restart the application in its entirety. Correct, Counselor?
That's correct.
And just as a piece of housekeeping, that's their decision, and they're certainly, they can pursue that. The notice, however, which applied to the first hearing, still carries over. So the notice is still, proper and effective. So there's not a notice issue with the applicant starting over, sort of de novo tonight. So with that, Counsel?
Thank you. Jennifer Mazaway, Mazawey, with the firm of Genova Burns, 494 Broad Street, Newark, New Jersey. Good evening, Chair, members of the board, professionals and public. Thank you so much for having us this evening. I'm here representing Walmart Real Estate Business Trust. Walmart has a store located at 4900 State Highway 9 South, also known as Block 74, Lot 9.02, in the Township of Howell. We are in the Highway Development Zone, HD1, and the store has existed for well over 20 years now in Howell. I was before this board in 2010 for an application to expand the store to its current footprint. That construction was done in 2012, and so the The full-service Walmart, which includes full grocery and general merchandise, has been in existence in Howell since 2012. We're here this evening due to a remodel that Walmart's corporate office has undertaken at many stores throughout New Jersey and throughout the country. In particular, here in Howell, the changes have been some internal, and then on the external side, on the outside, we're interested in changing signs. The building has undergone a renovation. For anybody who has driven by in the last several months, they have also repainted the outside of the store at this point. And I think in anticipation of hopefully the board granting our deviation this evening for signs, to change some of the signs and to add additional signs. Now, our application called for the replacement of 4 existing building signs that were wall-mounted signs, and to install 2 additional building-mounted signs along Route 9. The previously approved sign package for the Walmart was for 550 square feet. What we learned in preparing for our hearing this evening was that, in fact, while 550 feet was approved, only 501 square feet of signage had actually been put on the building. So in fact, there was a question in the planner's report, and that discrepancy is based on the fact that while we were approved for 550 square feet, the ultimate construction of the building and the signage only came to 501 square feet. We're seeking a variation from Section 188-231C and also 256-5C of the Township's ordinance, which provides that businesses situated on a corner location shall be permitted to have 2 wall facade-type signs, provided that both such signs shall not face the same street. We are proposing, as I mentioned, 6 signs. There is also an existing McDonald's arch logo sign on the building, which would actually raise the number of signs to 7. As council mentioned, we noticed for the prior meeting in June 21st, and that notice was carried to this evening's hearing. I will be calling up the architect, Gabriel Massa, principal of MMA Architecture, as well as a planner, Christine Caffone of Caffone Consulting Group, to provide testimony to the board. And with that, I will call Mr. Massa.
Hey, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is.
Please state and spell your name.
My name is Gabriel J. Massa, Gabriel Massa. My office is located in Neptune, New Jersey, about 20 minutes down the road, 3297 Route 66, zip code 07753.
Counselor, you want to qualify your?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you just give the board briefly your qualifications?
Yes. I've been licensed for almost 30 years. I've carried about 36 or 38 different licenses throughout the country. Our firm does work nationally. Our headquarters have been located in Neptune for the last 22 years.
Have you been qualified as an expert in other planning boards?
Yes, I have. Numerous planning boards, planning commissions, and so forth.
And you're licensed in New Jersey?
Yes, I'm licensed in New Jersey,
And your license is current?
current.
And you have experience in similar types of applications?
Yes, I actually handle all of, not all of them, the majority of special projects for Walmart, from their most complex to their most unique projects. I've been working with them for, I would say, 14 years.
We'll accept him as an expert in architecture.
Thank you.
Right.
Gabe, do you want to briefly tell the board what our request is related to signage on the building?
Yeah, sure. So in 2010, can I just use this?
Yes, and this works.
I brought up,
I think it has to be close.
It's on.
can you hear me? Okay, great. We're here for a sign variance because we're adding a few signs to the building, and I just wanted to kind of clarify what happened since the approval in 2010 for.
I don't think that mic is working, is it?
Can you hear me?
It is, I think you just have to get it like close.
Hello?
Yeah,
Oh, there
it
you go.
works. You have to hold it close.
I got to hold it real close. We're handing out a packet of 11 by 17 exhibits. Can we hand that out just in case you can't see this?
Is this something that was pre-marked, Eileen?
No, we would ask that this be marked as.
It's dated
A-
today, so it's-
Dated today, we'd ask that it be marked A7. We think it would be best to come in as one package, unless you think that we should handle each sheet differently.
I'm not going to mark all those sheets.
A7,
A7 sounds great.
All right, and can you just describe this?
yes.
I think there's 9. So what this contains is just a quick overview of how the signage changed and what we're proposing.
So can we just call it a 9-sheet, what is it, like a signage timeline?
Yeah, it's now signage, timeline, discussion.
It also
board,
includes current photos of the site.
bollard replacement.
Okay. That's fine. 9 pages, you said?
Yeah,
Okay. And it's dated today.
right.
And
But it's
who-
tailored to signage.
And your office prepared this?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, I was the author behind
Get close.
it. Okay. In 2010,
Can you hold on till,
oh, sure.
I have one?
This is not up there, so. If you guys want to look at one.
Okay,
Let me know when, good?
yep.
So the first board is basically a timeline for the signage. In 2010, there were 4 signs on the building. There was an outdoor living, home and living, a Walmart, and a market and pharmacy. And it totaled 550 square feet. And that's what was approved in the resolution. 4 signs, 550 square feet. That was in 2010. In 2012, when they grand opened, when they were finishing up the store, Walmart went through a couple of different changes with their wayfinding signage. So the home and living and the market and pharmacy that were proposed for the building were changed to the home and pharmacy and the market. And that resulted in a reduction of signage to 501 square feet. During that period of time, it was the tenant's responsibility to get any signage they needed for their building. We're not exactly sure how that McDonald's sign got on the building. Maybe they assumed based on 550 square feet allowed, they just added it. They were responsible for getting that, so I'm not sure what happened there. But nevertheless, with the McDonald's sign, we were at 515 square feet. Today, we're coming and asking if we could implement 2 additional signs. A vision sign, it's very difficult to see, and a pickup sign. So what's important today, as you all know, where everybody is implementing e-commerce, they're trying to commingle their retail business with e-commerce. The pickup sign in this locations lets people know that there's internet sales for general merchandise that they can pick up. So it's a key. They can quickly identify, hey, this store has online purchasing. So when you look at this exhibit, the yellow highlights highlight the original signs that were proposed. These are the replacements. And these are what we're adding. The pickup and the vision. Let me go to 2 additional slides. Right. Yeah. Slides 7 and 8.
This would be sheets 2 and 3 of your packet?
So, as Jennifer mentioned, the remodel project had already started, and they had already started painting the facade of the building. This image reflects what's out there currently, right now. I just took this photograph the other day. This image is the exact same image, Photoshop, showing that the brand color has yet to be painted. The pickup sign has yet to be installed. But this is our goal. This is where we want to get to. This is the new color palette, the earth tone color palette that Walmart uses. A very sophisticated gray palette. But I wanted to give you an idea of what the building was going to look like. Boards 9 and 10. Going back through the resolution that was approved in 2010, the board required that the architect fulfill certain requirements when it came to aesthetics, how they broke up the facade. This is one of Walmart's most upgraded buildings, and what we did here is we preserved all the articulations on this building, all the undulations, all the pilasters, everything we maintained so we wouldn't do anything inconsistent with the prior resolution. The only thing we've done is painted it. So you can see all the human scale elements, you can see the breakup of the facade, you can see all the awnings, and I thought it would be important to kind of show you that we've preserved that.
Can I ask a quick question on this?
Sure.
So this is all signage stuff, but then I'm looking at a map that shows removable bollards.
I'm going to go through that.
Okay,
I'm going to definitely go through that.
thank you.
Rather than that map, because I have something that's a little clearer to read.
Okay.
So, sticking with signage for a moment. There was a question in the engineers, board's engineer regarding, is the signage mounted? It doesn't look like it is. So, all the signage on the building is mounted, so I took photographs of the signs. But it's very important to note, and the board recognized this in the resolution in 2010, that the building needed wayfinding signage, because there's two entrances. When you come into the site, you need to know where to go. So the market, the outdoor living, the home and pharmacy are non-illuminated. Those are non-illuminated. They're just plastic letters mounted on a facade. The only illuminated signs currently on the building are the Walmart and the Spark and the McDonald's, because those are brand signs. We're proposing another directional sign for the Vision, non-illuminated. This is what it looks like now, and we're just looking to put a small, so when you're coming up to the vestibule, you know you have a Vision Center in there. You can't really see it from afar, but when you're close, coming from the parking lot, you can note that it's there. The pickup sign, we're looking to just put a pickup sign on the far right-hand corner of the building to let people know that there's internet sales and they can pick up general merchandise. Hopefully someday grocery.
At the previous application, or previous meeting, I should say, I had expressed a concern, and I think a couple of the board members had. We don't have an issue with the pickup sign. We understand what it's trying to convey. But if you look at that, the inset that's right below it seems to convey from the outside that that's an entrance. It almost looks like a roll-up door. And one of the things that was discussed at the previous meeting was if we could somehow make that less conspicuous or let it being less interpreted as an entrance. We understand that the actual entrance is a little bit a ways from it, but that was one of the things.
Yeah, and I looked at that, and I thought that was a very good point. But let me bring this slide back up for a moment. A lot of buildings have corner architectural features on them. They're usually required. Everybody puts either a tower or something faux on the corners of the buildings, give it some articulation. But when you approach this building, because of its length, you see the two vestibules on the left and the right, and that's where there's transparency and light that kind of illuminates from the building, especially in the evening. And this particular location, when I looked at it and I walked the site and I took this particular picture because there's carts, there's a bench, I think it's screened here. If we have to, we could darken this up so it's less of an entrance, less of an arch, and almost try to make it look like it's solid. If that makes it better for you.
Yeah,
We
that
can
would,
throw some paint.
Yes.
Okay.
That wouldn't be a problem. There is, as Mr. Massa pointed out, I also went to the site today, Chair, and there's a bench right in front of that. It would be hard for someone to mistake it for, in reality, as you're there on site, to mistake it for a door, but I
yeah,
think,
but if you're driving up, all right, your natural first glance is, oh, I want to park by where the pickup is.
Right.
And that's the only reason why I mentioned that.
Yeah, I could paint it darker, I could pick up the darker gray and pick that up. I don't see that as a problem, especially if it makes you feel more comfortable with it, sure.
Yes.
I do have one last board that I want to go over with you, or two boards, I should say. And that's the bollards. The funny thing is with bollards is retail stores really don't have bollards. It's just some of the bigger stores that have them, and they're always concerned about customer safety. They like them, they don't like them, they want them in, they want them out. So I've got on board number 13, there's a current state and a proposed state. So when you look down here, you see the blue bollards on 13 on the bottom, this one, these ones over here. We photoshopped them out. We're leaving the bollards at the doors, but taking them out because our sidewalks come right to the roadway, and it helps with cleaning and snow plowing, and we don't want to build a barricade,
I would just be concerned from shopping at Walmart 100 times. You have two entrances, you have kids that walk back and forth between the two entrances. You have, I think one of your pictures even has little bikes, kids' little bikes that,
Oh, those are
out there.
displays.
Okay, but, to remove, and that store is crazy busy all the time. To remove a safety feature like that, especially in this township in front of this board, I'm sure there's others that may agree.
Yeah, let's just be right up front here. It's board's policy, all right, and I have a gentleman right to my right here, which will absolutely substantiate it, that we want bollards along that frontage.
Okay.
We do not want to see bollards removed.
Okay. How about even along where the garden center is? Between the entrances, you can keep them, or you still need them here?
We have had too many instances, not only in Howell, but throughout Monmouth County, where cars are going right through the building.
Okay.
So we're not going to remove one bollard.
I can just tell you parenthetically, one of the incidents involved our traffic engineer who was eating his lunch when the car came through the wall.
understood.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so you've
Completely.
got guidance on that then.
We understand.
So with that, that ends my presentation.
Thanks.
Thank
Any-
you very much.
Thank you.
Board have any questions for this witness?
As long as they keep the bollards, I'm happy.
I do have one quick question about the signage. The non-illuminated signage that you said, the market and the other signs, there's going to be a light shining on them, obviously. They're just not illuminated from the actual sign itself, correct?
Right. And our engineer could probably clarify this, but all our lights on sites now are full cutoff. They're LED. And full cutoff means that they don't light up the sky. And what happens is the lights along the street, some of them are turned up a little bit. We don't want to light up way up high. We want to go about 12 feet and carry a light across the building about 12 feet, just to make sure that our customers are safe.
Our lighting expert is not here right now, so
Yeah,
I'd be
right.
remiss if
Yeah,
I
we're
didn't make a lighting
Plus,
question.
it's part
So,
of being sustainable. It's part of our sustainability
perfect. Thank you.
features.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, I'd like to open this up to the public. If you have any questions specific to the architecture, what this witness has testified on, this is just questions. Later on, if you want to make a statement, we'll have that opportunity. Anyone? Please come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on.
I'd like to call one additional witness, Christine Cafone, Cafone Consulting.
Hey, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please state and spell your name.
It's Christine Nazaro, Nazzaro, Cofone, C-O-F as in Frank, O-N-E. Business address is 125 Half Mile Road, Suite 200, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. I'm testifying as a licensed professional planner. I've testified here many times. I've testified on the 2010 application. I've testified before about 400 other planning and zoning boards throughout the state of New Jersey. My license is current, and I have a master's degree in city and regional planning.
Okay, and you're licensed in New Jersey, correct?
Of course, yes.
Yes. All right,
Yep.
we'll accept her as a expert in planning.
Thank you. So the application before you does not require any variances, actually. The relief that we need for the sign package that we're proposing is actually a design waiver. So I'll put some testimony on tonight as if it were a variance, so the board can be comfortable with it, because you do have to determine the reasonableness of the waiver. But I just want to be clear for the record, for everybody that's here tonight, that it's actually not a variance, it's a design waiver, which is what it's referenced as in your board professionals review letter as well. So back in 2010, when this application was approved, we also needed a variance for the number of facade signs. And we are increasing the number of facade signs by 1 in conjunction with this application. Because this is a property that's in the HD1 zone with multiple street frontages, we'd be allowed to have 2 facade signs. And we're proposing 7, which were described by Mr. Massa earlier this evening. So I think certain purposes of the municipal land use law, or if it were a variance, positive criteria that the board relied on last time in 2010 were criteria H, which talks about the free flow of traffic. And one of the reasons we testified on that last time, and I think it's still appropriate here, is because the signage has multiple purposes in the planning world. It helps facilitate the motoring public, the traveling public, and with multiple entrances to this building, it's nice to efficiently and safely get the traveling public to the appropriate portions of the building that they're going in. So I think certainly relying on criteria, again, as you did in 2010, or this board did in 2010, would be appropriate. But I also think the board can rely on criteria I, which talks about creating a desirable visual environment. As planners, certainly we like our businesses, we like to advertise, and we think that that's good. But signage also has another effect of breaking up the elevations. And you heard Mr. Massa also tell you that while we're changing some things, we're certainly not changing any of the articulations or the undulations. And we think the signage is well placed in the building, and it certainly has a certain architectural component to it as well that gives the building some nice curb appeal. So with that, I think the board can also look at criteria I, a desirable visual environment. But again, these are design waivers. But when you're granting the reasonableness of the waiver, you can just be comfortable that the positive criteria, if it were a variance, would be satisfied. And as far as having any negative impacts, the stated purpose of the HD1 zone is to actually promote high-intensity commercial development that's oriented along the Route 9 corridor. So I think that both this use and the sign package that's associated with it advances the stated purpose of the HD1 zone, and I see no detriments to this sign package that's being proposed. I think it's well scaled to both this building, the Route 9 corridor, and certainly, we're not going to illuminate it, as Mr. Massa testified. So I really think it's a great application. I think it really dresses up the elevations of the building, and I think the waivers are reasonable in relation to both the zone that this property sits in, the corridor, and I think the waivers for the sign package are reasonable.
All right, thank you. Peter, would you like to make any comment?
Before you start, do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yeah, given the standard of reasonableness for waivers, I think that the testimony has adequately addressed those standards, as well as provided proofs for both variances. The signage, is, the proposed signage is in character with the existing signage. I really don't have any substantial comments or concerns about the application. And given the overall massing of the building and the proportion of square feet of the signage compared to the square footage of the entire front facade, I don't think it's out of balance, let's say, with the front facade. That's really all I have.
Laura?
Mr. Chairman?
Well, I just wanted, Laura, any comments that you would like to make?
No, Mr. Chairman, we had comments in our prior report. However, with the recent submission, those were addressed. We didn't update it because they were pretty minor in nature, and I felt Peter's report did cover it. But I know previously there was concerns about this, particular with how many signs and what the size area was. So I think that's been testified to tonight, and I have nothing additional at this time.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could you clarify for me, what is the sign that you currently have on Route 9 South, the first entrance to Route 9 South, entrance coming down south?
Are you alluding to the monument?
Right
sign?
on the highway,
A monument, there's a monument sign.
huh?
The monument sign,
Yes.
the size of it, I'm not sure. 'Cause we're not changing. We'll get you an answer on that, I'm not sure.
But that's not part of this.
I know, but I miss it every time I drive through. You see it.
Mr. Schneider, that sign is a monument sign. It is not changing as part of our application.
Okay.
That was approved during the 2010 expansion.
Does the board have any questions of this witness?
I have no questions.
With that being, I will open this up to the public. If anyone has any questions of this witness and they would like to come forward and ask the questions, please. If not, we'll
Thank
close
you.
it. Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That would conclude our testimony this evening.
Okay. I would then open this up to the public. If anyone would like to step forward and make a comment on this application, please do so. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. So, gentlemen, how would we like to move on this application?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Husser?
Just for clarification, that goes with the non-removal of the bollards and the painting scheme as discussed?
That's correct.
The two stipulations.
Yes,
That's correct.
That's a yes vote, correct?
yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
And Chairman Nash?
Yes.
Thank you.
Carries.
Thank you very much.
Let's get.
I'm in court tomorrow with Mr. Parisi on his motion for reconsideration.
Okay, the next application is case number SP 1037, Pioneer at Howell LLC. It's a preliminary and final major site plan with ancillary bulk variance. Application of Pioneer at Howell LLC as applicant and owner seeking preliminary and final site plan with ancillary bulk variance approval to remove all existing site improvements and construct a two-story, 7,500 square foot medical office building on premises known as Block 182, Lot 70, 402 Colts Neck Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Salvatore Alfieri on behalf of the applicant. As the chairman has summarized, this is an application for a small 7,500 square foot medical office building at the intersection of Route 33 and Colts Neck Road. We received a report from Mr. Herman late today, and it raises some issues that we need to look into between now and the time the board ultimately votes on the application. We'd like the opportunity, however, to present as much as we can this evening, understanding that we would have to come back and address Mr. Herman's comments. Particularly, we have to meet with Monmouth County Planning Board. We have an application filed, but we haven't received any response from them. And we will meet with them before the next meeting to determine what kind of dedication they would require on Colts Neck Road, if any, and what impact, if any, that would have on parking spaces. Your planner also raises a question, a suggestion that we discuss interconnecting our parking area, our parking lot, with the neighboring retail center. The owner of that retail center is a client of mine as well. We're going to speak to him. I'm not sure if they're willing to do that, but we would certainly do that with them. And then Mr. Herman also raises a few other questions that we will meet with him on in an effort to satisfy his concerns. But since we've received it so late today, we really had no chance to we didn't even try to reach him. So anyway, having said that, if the board will allow us, we'd like to at least present a good portion of our testimony and address professional comments to the extent we can this evening, understanding that we'd have to come back.
Yeah, that's fine, Mr. Alfieri, but one of the two things that concern me, all right, is number one, about that we're talking about removal of potential parking because of that right-of-way, and the other is about the drainage design, and those are two major factors. So if you want to proceed with your testimony, but if it somehow you can address that or at least discuss it as you're presenting, then we can move
Yes,
forward.
we will. We will.
Okay.
And our witness is Mark Lieber. Mark? Hi.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Mark with a C, last name is Lieber, L-E-B-E-R.
Can you hear him okay, or do you want him up here?
Well, if he talks into the mic, it'll be
I
fine.
don't know if it's, okay, it is. Keep it close.
You just have to talk right into it, otherwise...
No problem.
And Mr. Lieber, we're seeking to have you qualified as a licensed professional. Would you place your credentials on the record, whether it be for planning or engineering?
Sure. My background's in civil engineering. I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Drexel University. I have a graduate degree from Rutgers Graduate School of Business. Presently in the state of New Jersey, licensed as an engineer. I have a planner's license and a certified municipal engineering certificate. About 11 years ago, I was a member of this board when I lived in Howell Township. Mr. Schneider might remember me. And I've testified before numerous boards, both in, Middlesex County, Monmouth County, and northern parts of the state.
And your professional engineer's license and your professional planner's license are both current
Yes,
in New Jersey?
they are.
Okay. We will accept him as a professional in both civil engineering and in planning.
Nice to see you after all these years.
Thank you.
Me too. And Mr. Lieber, you passed out a reduced version of the site plan that was submitted to the board previously, is that correct?
Yes.
And we do have an additional exhibit to mark, and could you identify what that is, please?
Yes, this is coloring of sheet 3. I also added some landscaping, which is from sheet 5 of the set.
Mark that as A12.
A12?
Please orient the board first as to where this property is located and what the surrounding uses are.
Yes.
You wanna hand us that?
I also have 4 pages of color photographs to pass around, which I'm going to use in describing this property.
Let me mark those in now.
A13?
Yeah.
A13 for
Those-
those.
So it's a package of 4 color photographs
Yes.
taken today, or when?
The last 3 pages were taken this morning, and the top page is aerial photo from the internet.
And you either took or downloaded the photos?
Yeah, the map I got from Microsoft and the photos I took this morning.
Okay. You can mark them as a...
And while Eileen's passing those out, can you go to A12 and again, orient the board as to where this property is located and what the surrounding uses are?
Sure. So this is block 182. It's lot,
Could we just hold, so,
yeah.
just gets a little confusing. All right, what do we have these photos marked as?
A13.
All four are A13?
Yes, it's a package of 4.
Okay, Mr. Lieber.
Okay, thank you. This is block 182. It's lot 70. Its street address is 402 Colts Neck Road. It's a corner lot on the northwest corner of Colts Neck Road and Highway 33. The lot area is 40,000 square feet, which is just shy of an acre, is .92 acres, and it's presently zoned HD3. Frontage along Colts Neck Road is approximately 137 feet, and the highway frontage is approximately 233 feet. Presently on this property, there's a vacant, single-family dwelling, and on the western edge of the property, there's a garage structure that's also been vacant. The access to this site today, there's 2 driveways off of the highway. They're both gravel. On the Colts Neck Road side, there's an additional driveway that allows whoever was living in the dwelling to exit onto Colts Neck Road as well. The slope of this property is such that the higher side is on Colts Neck Road, and the entire property drains west toward the neighbor's shopping center. So if you look at the photos here, the aerial map, there's a little purple flag in the center. That's where this property is. So immediately to the west, you'll see the shopping center. It's a retail center, which behind that is Equestra. Directly across the street from this property, across 33, there's a gas station. To the left of that gas station, there's a farm stand. Now going across Colts Neck Road is a Quick Check. South of the property, there's a dwelling. And then diagonally across the intersection is a golf tee place. Now, if you look at page 2,
It's a driving range.
driving range. If you look at page 2, the top photo, this is the neighbor shopping center. One of the features of this property is it's lined with some very mature evergreen trees, which we intend to save. This photo here is standing in the parking lot in front of Dunkin' Donuts, looking east, and the trees that you see in the distance are actually on this property. Down below, I just turned myself toward the building from the highway, and you can see that this is what the retail center looks like today. On the next page, the top photo is I'm standing on Colts Neck Road where our proposed driveway would be located, and I'm looking toward the intersection. One of the things you might notice here is there's a very large hedgerow, which creates a sight distance issue. As part of this project, that would all be removed so that you'd have clear sight distance in that area. The bottom photo, I'm standing in the front of the house in this property, and I'm looking east on Route 33. You'll see in the distance, Quick Check. You can see the sign on the right. On the third page, I have on the top a photo of the garage, again taken today. In the distance behind the garage, you'll see evergreen trees, and on the left, you'll see the same evergreen trees. These are the trees that we're preserving as part of this application. And finally, the last photo is the house as it appeared this morning. It's vacant, there's no utilities connected to it anymore, and the septic has been already removed.
How was the house previously heated?
Let me check. Was it a cast iron boiler? Okay, the owners indicated it was an oil heat and that the tank has been removed.
No further action letters been received by the DEP, from the DEP?
Do you have paperwork?
We'll provide whatever we have.
So, you're not having access off the state highway?
No.
Is that because your access point would be in the left turn, within the left turn bay on 33?
If we were to apply for access on the state highway, we would not be given a left turn out.
I'm not
So-
talking about a left turn out, I'm talking about a left turn in.
It's questionable if we would be allowed a left turn in as well. The location of our driveway was actually selected to be the furthest point from the intersection where the light is, and to allow two-way traffic at the driveway. If
I
we-
understand that, but it forces everyone, I mean, granted, it's not a commercial or a retail where bypass trips are a factor, all right? But that does mean that anyone traveling to this shopping center must either turn right or turn left, coming in off the state highway onto Colts Neck Road to get access to your facility.
Well, the policy of the DOT, when you apply for access on a corner lot that's on a state highway, is you have to have access on the alternative side street.
Right.
So if you were to try and create access on the highway, you would still have a requirement for access on the side road.
I understand that fully, all right? My question is, why aren't we also looking at access from the state highway?
I mean, for the type of use that we have here, I didn't feel that that was necessary. I mean, my opinion is this is a better layout. It allows us the opportunity to provide more parking and to have a nicer frontage.
It also avoids having to go to the DOT.
We still
for
have to
access.
go to the DOT.
You're within the DOT. Why do you have to go to the DOT? You're not having access onto the state highway.
We're actually removing access, so it's still a permit.
Okay.
So moving on to what's proposed, on this plan, there's a medical office building, it's two-story. The footprint is 50 by 75, so it's 3,750 square feet for a total of 7,500 square feet. We have 50 parking stalls provided. We had calculated the parking requirement to be one space per 150 square feet of the building, which is why we have 50 parking stalls. There was a comment in one of the planner's review letters that the requirement might actually be 1 per 300. And if the board determined that it was 1 per 300, we would actually have 25 extra spaces as this plan is presently drawn.
Well, can we kind of resolve that? So, what section of the ordinance are we looking at?
It's the parking section. I don't have a citation for that direct section, but I think it comes down to the definition and what the actual use is. Is this a,
It's not a medical center, it's just a simple medical office building, so.
What's the difference?
Well, I think a medical center was like, more like a urgent care or those types of uses that are ancillary to hospitals versus just having medical practice.
Do we have a definition? Or actually, what's,
The ordinance Peter refers to the two uses, medical center versus medical office.
okay, so does our ordinance have definitions for those two?
does not have definitions
For either?
for either.
And what's the difference in the parking standard?
It's double. It's one space per 300 for a medical office versus one space per 150 square feet for medical center.
One per 300 and one for what?
One per 150
For a medical center?
for a medical center.
And Mr. Alfieri, your belief is it's not a medical center because?
Well, without the definition of the ordinance, my understanding is that when you have those Instacare type uses and those other type uses, they're high traffic, high parking, where the people are in and out without appointments versus a regular medical office or a dentist's office where you're going in. We could try, first, there's two issues relating to parking. Number one is if we lose those 7 spaces, because on the Colts Neck Road side, obviously we're going to be short 7 spaces from what we're proposing. So we're going to have to reconcile what your ordinance says versus what we're proposing if we lose the spaces. Right now, if we don't lose those spaces, there's no issue as to whether we need 1 per 500, 1 per 300, or 1 per 150. We meet either standard.
Right.
If we lose the 7, that's when it becomes
Yeah.
an issue. So we're going to meet with the county,
Okay.
determine whether we lose it, and then we'll address the standard.
All right, so we'll defer that until we know whether we have to figure it out or not.
Yes.
Okay, the building would be served by both public water and public sewer. And with regard to drainage, again, the pattern on the property is that it drains from east to west. So there's no drainage infrastructure along the highway or Colts Neck Road in this area. So our only option is to provide an on-site infiltration type system. So that system is designed to accommodate all of the runoff from this parking lot and the building. And we had provided a soils report indicating that, based upon the data we received, that this would work. There is still an overflow to that system. So should that system ever overtop, it would spill out of a flat catch basin, and it would flow actually to the west, which is where the water's going today. Ultimately, it would end up into the drainage inlet on our neighbor's property, which is actually where our site is draining right now. So what we're doing is we're really reducing the amount of water going to the neighbor's property because we're taking it underground to our own system. But if that system should overtop, I'm talking about a storm that's maybe 11 inches an hour, then the water would slowly come up and flow over the grass area into that drain. And even that volume would be significantly less than the volume that he's getting today.
And that's one of the comments that Mr. Herman raises in his email from today, which we're going to discuss with him. Is that correct?
Yes.
And maybe in that discussion, you can confirm whether or not the drainage associated with that development assumed your runoff coming into the site?
I actually have the plans from Flannery Webb and Hanson for Questra, and I have the drainage areas for this, and I could provide that if necessary. So with regard to the buffering of the property, as I stated before, we want to maintain and keep and save those mature pine trees that are along both the southern border and also the western border. We're supplementing that with some new shade trees along the highway and some shrubs, different types of landscaping. I know there was a comment that we should provide additional shade trees in the parking lot, and I see opportunity to provide easily 6 more on this plan, which is fine. There is a freestanding sign proposed as part of the application, and that would be located at the corner. It's about 11 feet in from Colts Neck Road right-of-way line. Other than that, we're providing new site lighting. It would be LED lighting. One of the nice things about LED is you can actually dim it instead of turning it off, which I find more effective. And there's a sidewalk we are proposing along the state highway. That's also shown on the plan. And as far as maneuverability, trash pickup, we have a enclosure. It's located on the south side, adjacent to the building. It has a capacity of storing 2 6-yard dumpsters. Presumably one would be for recycling cardboard. And the pickup plan would be that the truck would enter in off Colts Neck Road. It could be a front loader truck with forks. He can access these dumpsters. And as he backs out, he can make a right turn to circle back around the parking lot and exit the site.
And Mr. Lieber, there's a variance, an existing condition variance. Would you identify what that variance is and why it's justified?
Yeah, in the HD3 zone, the minimum lot width requirement is 150 feet. And along Colts Neck Road, the existing lot width is 137 feet approximately. So that, although it's an existing condition, it would remain as is under this plan.
And there's a series of design waivers. One of them you already discussed, which is well, you mentioned, but we didn't discuss, which is the location of the freestanding sign. But there are several others. Would you mind going into those so the board understands what the waivers are?
Yes, some of these waivers we will be able to eliminate. And I'm just on page 3 of the June 22nd letter from CME Associates. So, for example, first item, letter B, is regarding lighting, that we should average a minimum of a half-foot candle, and we're averaging 0.6-foot candles. As a designer, I think a little more light is not necessarily bad. I think not enough light is worse, but if necessary, we could revise the lighting plan to have the maximum of 0.5.
Can we just, while we're on the lighting, all right, is the lighting going to be reduced during the evening hours?
Yes, the LED lighting can be dimmed to, say, 50%. So it keeps enough level of light for a security purpose, but it also allows people to realize that, the place is really closed. So,
Right. Well, no, I mean, I was thinking also of the, just enough level of lighting so a passing patrol unit would be able to see if there's anyone within the site.
yes.
All right, so I don't know if you're going to have, Mr. Alfieri, an applicant, someone to testify as to what's going to be the hours of operation, but we would like to put on the record as a stipulation that whatever the hours are that the building is closed, within reason, that the lighting level be reduced somewhat.
Yes, and we have no issue with that. As far as operational testimony, hours of operation, and type of medical users, we have no users lined up because we're so far away from building this building. We're going to build it.
So you wouldn't have a problem that we stipulate at 10 o'clock at night that the lighting levels be reduced to, and maintained like that till
Just for
5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning?
That's fine, it'll just be security lighting in those off hours.
Yes.
That's
yes.
fine.
So, Ron, we would make a condition, reduce lighting between the hours of 10 a.m., 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.
Do we can
That's fine.
quantify that as to what we...
Well, I don't, it will just be whatever's required for security lighting. I'm not sure if you need a foot candle reading for that. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
But if I say security lighting only,
That's
that would
fine.
be...
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry, if you want to continue with the waivers.
So, Laura, the first waiver that you identify in page 3, item B, we would eliminate the waiver request if that's what you or the board wants, that we defer to you.
So the board understands that's the maximum lighting level. At ground level should be a maximum of 0.5. They have an average of 0.6, and I know Shari has explained to the board that this in fact does occur, and she wouldn't take an exception to the 0.6, but if the board would like to see that reduced, certainly the applicant has indicated that they can comply. But I think per IES standards, the 0.6 would be appropriate.
Just
I like to
what
take a-
page and letter is this?
This is page 3, item B.
I'd like to poll the board on this to see, Mr. Kuza, 0.6 or 0.5? Okay. Mr. Seaman?
I mean, I don't know exactly what that difference is, but I think it's...
It's de minimis.
relatively negligible, it seems to be.
Mr. Russo?
If it's de minimis, then it doesn't matter to me.
Mr. Schneider?
I think we should wait for Mr. Tannenhouse. They're coming back anyway.
Well, what I will tell you, and maybe it helps the board, is you have to ensure a minimum of 0.5. And I think that that's where this issue comes in, because we have a later comment that's technical, which typically the applicant would just agree to comply, that says ensure you're providing the minimum .5 throughout the parking lot, whereas this is going for the average. So we can certainly wait for Mr. Tenenhouse if that's what Mr. Schneider would like, but I would like, the minimum should be met in order to ensure that the parking lot is safe.
Okay,
Minimum should be met.
okay.
That's a point of clarification. So the average is a maximum of .5. What is our actual maximum threshold then?
We don't have a maximum threshold, we have a minimum. Typically, what we look for is that we don't spill over, and a lot of times when we have canopies, I know we've seen that on some of the gas station applications, those sometimes we get concerned because it's really bright. But we don't have that circumstance here, but the ordinance doesn't set forth an
We're talking
average.
about one-tenth
1/10 of a foot candle.
above the minimum.
That is correct.
Okay, so
Right.
My personal opinion is that I would go with the slightly higher illumination level, so I,
But don't forget,
take it as you would.
but don't forget you have homes off on the south of there, plus the 55 and older community. There's homes that are going to butt up against it, so you don't want it too illuminated.
Right, and a 1/10 of a foot candle is so insignificant.
Okay.
It would be difficult for anyone to realize that.
Okay.
Well, and again, I mean, even if the board members look, I have the lighting plan shown, just so you can kind of see what we're talking about. Mark, there's going to be no spillage to the south, correct? Because if you look, they're showing .2 there.
Well, you know, one of the issues with these lighting models is they don't take into account either fences or vegetation. So we always run these things and we ignore those factors. The only time we put in a barrier is if it's a building wall. So the way it's drawn right now, there's .2 foot candles over the south property line, and that's measured at the ground level. If we were to put into a model the evergreen trees that are there now, it'd probably be 0. And I believe moonlight on a full moon with a clear sky is just under .1 foot candle. So, I mean, they're very low levels, but certainly, I mean, we could make the model think that there's a barrier there by putting so-called a wall on the lot line, or we could put a fence.
I think that that's more what the board wants to go to, is whether or not we have any light spillage. But I think if you look at this, the intensity is pretty well confined to the parking area itself.
Right.
Okay, so, Mr. Lieber, going back to the CME report, page 3, we're now on waiver C. Can we address that and eliminate the need for the request?
Yes, that requires landscaping around the trash area, which we will comply.
So is that 3 sides or the 4 sides of the trash area?
I can't do the fourth side because that's where the gate is.
Right. You're going to put a gate and you're going to put screening on the gate, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Letter D, I wanted to talk about the situation with the location of the driveway. So the ordinance states that a driveway has to be 30 feet when you measure from the center line to the property line. And again, our narrow frontage is on Colts Neck Road. We're trying to keep the driveway as far away from the intersection as possible. So I believe we have 23 feet, not 30 feet. Visibly, I don't know if it's perceptible, but, you know, if we were to make it 30 feet, then we're just moving the driveway closer to the intersection. This is probably something that we're going to have to wait to hear from the county on, but I just wanted to describe why we placed it where it is.
I'm sorry, I still go back to, I'm really hung up on the fact that you don't have a right in and a right out off of 33. I got to be honest with you.
Like, you know, what I was describing before with how the DOT will treat a corner lot like this, their policy is the less curb openings on the highway, the better. So if you have a situation where you have access and it's less than 100 peak hour trips, they'll make you use the side street.
But we'll look at that more carefully between now and next week.
Mr. Chairman, are you concerned about emergency vehicles getting in and out?
No, I'm just concerned about, there's buffering in front of the site, and if you're driving along and you don't really know where the building is, all right, you're going to be past it before you realize that you had to turn into Colts Neck to get into the, I just think that it's going to put more traffic on the side street approach to the traffic signal, which I'm assuming we'll get some traffic testimony on that anyhow.
I mean, believe it or not, this is, in the DOT textbook, they actually show this exact scenario for corner lots. And there are cases, actually one that I know I've been involved in, where the side street actually comes up before the lot. If you're on like the quick check side of this intersection, you have your side street first, then you have the site. And even in those scenarios, they've made people have exclusive access on the side street, which is where you enter the situation where someone could drive
Mr.
right
Alfieri,
by.
understanding that our chairman has a passing familiarity with these regulations, maybe it's just, since you're coming back anyway, it's something you could take a closer look at.
We will.
Okay.
Item E, Mark.
E, we had designed this property to have what I feel is a standard 25-foot wide access drive for a commercial parking lot. And we would ask for relief on that. And, you know, I'll show you where that applies. All the parking stalls you see on here are 9 by 18, and the drive aisles are 25 feet. There was a prior iteration of the plan where we had 24-foot wide aisles. We had discussed and met with your engineer, and it's fairly common to find 25-foot aisles in this type of a use. So we would need relief.
Have you met with the fire department?
I have not met with them, and we have not received any comments from them either.
But my notes are that we're going to, only because we want to make sure that they're satisfied with truck
Well,
circulation.
I think there may be a report from the fire department.
Oh, really? Good.
I don't doubt that you may not have received it, but there is one.
If there's not one, we will certainly meet with them and make sure we have one at the next meeting.
Yeah, this application's also been kicking around, for
Yeah, what happened
for
was
a
when we
while.
first applied for this, it was a retail center, and there was concern, particularly by Laura, that it was too intense for that corner, and we actually discussed it with the neighboring property owner. He was concerned with the two retail centers next to each other, and that's why we came down with this very small, if you will, office building.
So there does appear to be a report from the Fire Bureau dated June 5th, 2018, one November 6th, 2017,
Yeah, the November one was probably for retail.
and then there was a one 6/22/17.
So it's the 18 one that we would be most concerned with.
Mr. Cachero, who is that from in the fire bureau?
Bob Lewis, the chief,
Okay.
he's the only one that responds.
Yeah, and there is, just briefly, there are comments that the parking lot aisleway should be increased to 30 feet to provide room for the apparatus to maneuver through the lot and operate. 2, on-site fire hydrant recommended due to location of project and nearest fire hydrant. 3, fire lanes will be needed to be installed as per requirements of the Howell Fire Bureau.
So we'll get a copy of that, and we'll meet with the fire officials certainly between now and the next meeting.
This is what I was concerned about, Mr. Alfieri, is that it seems to be that there are more and more issues that are arising with the site plan layout. And that's why I had expressed your concern, is that, it's nice that you're presenting it to the board, but if it's going to be a redesign of the site, should we continue to move forward?
And we had planned on stopping as soon as we finished with the waivers, because the rest of it's technical comments that we're going to agree to anyway. But the reason we wanted to start was at least to get some input. For example, you've raised the Route 33 access point. Had we not gone forward, we wouldn't have known about that till we came back. So it's helpful to get some input, so then when we come back, we could address everything.
All right, fine, so we'll go through the waivers and
then we're fine.
then we'll call it quits.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, letter F, we could update the plan to provide landscaping between the parking and the building. We have a overly wide sidewalk there that we could put a, planter bed in. G,
I will tell you right now that the parking spaces that front on, that head on into the building, you better have bollards in front of those parking spaces.
okay, hold on a second.
And that will, materially affect the width, since you need to have a certain clear width.
Yeah, so for item G, we don't need to discuss that waiver now. We'll look at the placement of the bollard, see how it affects the length, and then we'll deal with it at that point.
Okay, so H, we would comply to increase the size of the trees. I believe we're going to have to make a contribution. J, it's our opinion that this type of use doesn't require a loading zone. They don't get tractor-trailer deliveries. The most likely delivery would be probably Amazon or FedEx. And
How about medical waste?
that would be picked up.
Yeah, the medical waste is stored in the containers, and then they're picked up by
Okay.
the waste companies.
Letter,
And is there going to be a place? I mean, what type of vehicle? Most of them use vans.
They use vans,
All
yes,
right.
and it's stored inside. It's stored in the offices or in the hallway.
So what happens when you have WB Mason or FedEx come? Where does that vehicle park?
I mean, practically speaking, they would probably park in front of the building and bring the stuff inside, and then you would be gone.
And block whoever they are parking in front of, in?
Well, I mean, they could park in front of the trash area. I mean, not every site has a designated loading zone. Not every site needs a loading zone, especially when you have infrequent deliveries and, you don't receive goods every day, such as a fast food restaurant, things of that nature.
Does the board have any comments on that?
Well, just to help the board along, though, how frequent are the deliveries? Because we don't really, I mean, it's a use in terms of it being a proposed medical use. We don't know, I assume different medical uses have different intensities.
Yeah, and we don't know who the users are going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably something for when you come back, maybe just assume the most intense type of medical waste producer in the medical.
And also, Mr. Alfieri, you said
penumbra.
this is a two-story building, right?
Correct.
How many offices are going to be in this building?
Again, we're not sure, depending upon who the users are and what they need. We will present you with a typical floor plan, but until we have a tenant, it's hard to say.
Letter K, we were providing sidewalk on the state highway. We will add sidewalk on the county road as well.
When we meet with the county, we're going to discuss the sidewalk. We're not sure what they want, but we'll report back when we come back.
We have an ordinance in town, sidewalks.
We can't require it, though, on a county road. The county,
County road, okay.
yeah, or even on the highway either. It's either, in this instance, the DOT and the county would determine the sidewalk issue.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, the shopping center to the west, to the east of this, does that shopping center have a sidewalk along its frontage?
I don't believe so. In fact, along their frontage, they have a drainage basin. Let me see, I got many photos.
I don't think so either.
I don't think it does.
This board has been trying to get some consistency in the application, if you will, of sidewalks. And clearly, if there's no other sidewalk in the area, putting a sidewalk in is kind of futile.
Colts Neck has no sidewalks.
Colts Neck has no sidewalks, I know that, all right?
Yeah, I don't see any sidewalk along the neighbor's commercial building.
Yeah, and that leads to the issue as to whether or not you want the sidewalk on 33. We show it, but we have no preference either way.
I think the board would probably, well, I don't want to speak for the board. Sidewalk on 33?
Recommended, but I don't think it's, we can.
Well, what you can do is you can require that the applicant pursue it. And if,
Be a good idea.
You think it's a good idea? Mr. Seaman?
I'm looking at the aerial photo that was provided to us, and it looks like the shopping center to the west does not have a sidewalk on 33. I mean,
It's one of these ones where,
it's,
What I will say is I think Quick Check does.
yeah, we were
So
looking
Quick
at
Check
that.
opposite Colts Neck
Yep,
Road.
yep.
So that directly across does, but I don't think any other quadrants of that intersection currently do.
Yeah, my only problem with sidewalks, and we've had this discussion prior on a main highway like this, is it gives the appearance that it's safe to walk on. If a little kid walks down that sidewalk on Quick Check, he or she will eventually get to a point where the sidewalk ends, right?
Right. Yeah,
Um,
it's a sidewalk to nowhere.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Exactly.
you go, and then, if they're gonna ride a bike, or their dad, say their parents park at the Quick Check, they're getting gas, they wanna walk outside with a dog, down the sidewalk, it gives the appearance that it's safe, and then you end up, and I know the street very well, I go down it often, it narrows after the Quick Check, and it's dangerous. So, I'd have to see the site, I'd probably wanna do a site visit before giving a yay or nay on the sidewalks in front of this particular project, but if there's no sidewalk on either side, and we know there's not any on Colts Neck Road, and we don't think there's any in front of the Dunkin' Donuts over here, I think putting a sidewalk in front of a project with in front of a busy intersection like this, it just invites danger.
Good. Great. Mr. Schneider, would you like to weigh in?
I agree with Tom.
Mr. Boyer? No?
It would be up to the county,
No, that Colts Neck, but what about on 33?
down on 33, no.
No, okay, so I think the board is inclined to not have the sidewalk on 33, and obviously, whatever the county wants on Colts Neck Road.
And we'll discuss that and we'll report back. Okay, and Mr. Lieber, if we eliminate the sidewalk on 33, does that give you additional land area for plantings or other type of buffering?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, letter L. So this is a interesting issue. There's a 50-foot required separation from a residential use to a parking space. However, on this property, it's a corner lot, and the front yard setback requirement's 60 feet. So if you apply a 60-foot front yard setback and a 50-foot buffer along the property, which is located, our neighbor on Colts Neck Road, then you're only left with 20 feet to do anything on this property. So some relief would be necessary due to the large setbacks on this lot.
And that relief would either be to move the building closer to 33 or to provide the parking as you propose, is that right?
Yes. Letter M, we can comply.
Can we just hold on that for a second? Peter, could you weigh in on that? All right, because this is a significant waiver.
Which, I'm sorry.
Letter M. I'm sorry, letter L.
L.
L, okay.
I mean, from what I'm hearing from the applicant, they're saying to comply with our ordinance, it would render the property virtually undevelopable. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, you would be left with a building slash, I guess a building envelope that's only 27 feet in total.
Okay, all right.
Peter can clarify, but that's not at all what that section says. So,
Parking space.
Peter, do you want to just read what the requirement is?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. You want me to excerpt it right from the letter, or go right to the section? Is this a partial excerpt?
So you could not have any parties.
Oh, sorry.
Let me see there. Bear with me 1 minute. Yes.
How far is the parking spaces to the west?
It's 10.6.
Okay, so section 188-226B states that commercial parking spaces and/or associated driveways shall be located a minimum of 50 feet from any side or rear property line which abuts a residential use. So, yeah, with regard to the property that is located south of this site, I mean, 50 feet would cut significantly into the property. I can see dimensions on the plans. For instance, it's a 10.5 foot setback, or rather distance from the property line to the first curb cut, and then you have another 25 foot drive aisle. So just looking at that, I mean, it's a significant distance that would have some impacts. However, I mean, we'd really need to see a design to see if it would, preclude development on the property. We'd have to see a conceptual plan, in my opinion.
Peter, I have a question too, and I apologize in advance for this one, but we spoke before about loading, having a loading area potentially, and I just see this building with 3 sides and then just landscaping behind it. Is there any way with the setbacks in our ordinances that there would be a loading area to be enabled back there, rather than having just a landscape and not being able to kind of circumvent the building and have access for sides?
Let me see. One of the limiting factors is 69.9% out of 70% permitted lot cover. So that's a limitation they would run into. And that kind of ties back to, or circles back rather, to the question as to whether this is a medical office or medical center. If they have a medical center that's proposed, they have significantly more parking and therefore more impervious coverage than you'd need. If that's the case, that, it's possible that you may be able to have a loading zone. That's, again, with all the changes that are anticipated for this plan in terms of, the right-of-way, dedication and other things, it would really take a conceptual plan or redesign of the site plan to really know for sure.
Peter, just on that first part, when you're talking about the setback requirement if you adjoin a residential use. So first of all, three of the property lines do not adjoin residential. So we're just talking about one, right?
That's correct.
And it's just the parking, not the building, that's implicated in that buffer or setback, right?
That's correct.
And driveway.
And driveway.
Right.
Well, what's the driveway requirement?
Yeah, that's, reads commercial parking spaces and/or access driveways.
Has to be what?
Shall be located a minimum of 50 feet from any side or rear property line which abuts a residential use.
So the driveway where it is less than that to a rear or side property line?
It is. It's about 10 point, it's tough to read on with the font I have here, but 10.6 feet.
I guess what I'm saying, though, is the conclusion that the property's undevelopable, when it doesn't impact the location of the building, it impacts whether you might have to redesign the drive aisle and the location of the parking.
Right. We'd have to bring the driveway 50 feet off the property line, so it'll be almost to the center of the property and closer to that intersection, closer to that traffic signal to comply.
But what we heard before that, it sort of renders the property undevelopable.
We agree that's not correct.
Yeah.
Again, is this grounds for granting the waiver?
Well,
They're not even close here on what our ordinance requires.
I think you don't have to prove that the property's not developable in order to get a design waiver. What you have to prove is that there is it creates a practicable difficulty for developing this site for its permitted use. So I think, between now and the next meeting, they probably have to take a look at the plan to understand more fully, the practicable difficulties in developing a site or developing a permitted use that complies with the strict requirements of the ordinance. I don't know that it doesn't sound like they're prepared to get there necessarily tonight.
Right. One of the things when we do get comments from the county and now meet with them, we're going to have to talk to them about that driveway location. If they're willing, if they don't have an issue with bringing it closer to the intersection, then we could at least reduce the extent of the relief we're seeking.
Well,
Remember, this is not a variance, it's a waiver, so there's a lesser standard. But yes, we'll look at with the county.
Right, but okay, I understand that's the access drive. We still have the issue of the parking spaces. Even if you shift the access drive, some of the parking will still be within that buffer.
That's correct.
And my concern here is
Not a
that
buffer.
it's a significant waiver from
Just to
the
be clear, though,
relief.
Mr. Chairman, this isn't a buffer requirement. The buffer section of the ordinance, as it relates to this parcel, the parcel's under an acre, so the required buffer between this use and the residential use per ordinance is 10 feet. So when we're talking about this 50-foot area, it's just strictly denoted as a setback from the property line to the access or the parking area. It's not a buffer. I just want to
Okay.
make sure I clarify that.
Okay, thank you. So in that, it's a significant waiver from our setback requirement. And, you know, I just need to hear some more substantiating testimony on that.
And we'll be prepared to address that.
Okay, thank you.
We only have 3 waivers to discuss in that page. N, Mr. Lieber, N?
Okay, N is tied in again with the county review. O would be something I'll defer to the architect, who's Mr. Clark.
So I just want to, I don't want to skip over O because I think it's important for you to at least relay to your architect that these blank wall facades have not been well received by the board. And we've seen applicants come back after several iterations of their architectural plans. So I just want to make sure that your architect gets the message that if this is what we're going with, you're probably going to have just a new iteration of it. We'd like to see the recesses or the projections, just as is indicated in here, for any facade over 50 feet long.
We'll make sure we'll make sure he addresses it. And then the last one was the freestanding sign, Mark. We're supposed to be 20 feet from the right-of-way. We're 11.4 feet. Is there a reason why we need to be where we're proposing it?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may take a small recess.
yeah, all right, let's just pause.
Okay.
Board will recess for a few minutes.
Okay,
Board
fine.
will reconvene.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, I know that the applicant wanted to testify about this, but I do need to clarify, I believe this is an error in our report. The 20-foot standard is to the right-of-way line of any highway. They do maintain a 22-foot wide setback from the sign from 33. The 11.4 feet is from Colts Neck Road, and because it is not a highway, I don't believe this 20-foot setback applies. So I would just clarify that I do believe that's an error. What the board may want to make sure is that it doesn't impede the site triangle or anything at that intersection, but I do think it's safely back and into the site, so I did just want to clarify.
That's fine, yeah, and our plans actually say 10 feet from Colts Neck Road, 20 feet from the highway. But that may be impacted by the county dedication, so we may or may not need relief coming back. And that's all the testimony we have, Mr. Chair. We appreciate you giving us an opportunity to present what we did tonight.
Okay, so let me just ask, is the board have any other questions?
Well, since we have discussed parking almost ad nauseum, just planning ahead and thinking ahead, the distinction obviously between a medical center versus a medical building is pretty significant, whether it's 1 per 150 or 1 per 300. And thinking ahead on that in terms of some of the comments from our engineers as far as, you know, the spot length being 18 feet versus 19, and the drive lanes being 25 versus 30. If those things were incorporated, I would imagine that would have a significant detriment to the parking situation.
Yes.
So I think, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I know in previous conversations, at least in terms of the drive aisle width, we've been relatively particular, especially, you know, deferring to emergency services and things like that. So that's, you know, something in my mind that might be worth calculating to know what that would factor in terms of the change in parking.
Right, and we understand that to ask for parking relief would not be reasonable because there's nowhere to park off-site. If it ever gets overparked, they can't park on either road, so we understand that.
Anybody else?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. I will tell you, the issues that I'm hung up on is, number one, the access off 33, which we agree that you can look at. And second, I really am not comfortable with your drainage design. It would be my position that I would like to see you not have any drainage from your site run onto the adjacent property. I understand it's an existing condition and you're reducing it, all right? But you are developing the property, and my personal opinion is that I would like to see it all retained and eliminate that runoff completely onto the adjacent property.
Okay.
All right, we'll look at that.
Okay. If the board doesn't have any other questions, I know you've gotten input from the board. Would you like me to open it up for the
Please.
public to give you input?
Please, yes.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to invite the public to come up. You'll be sworn, and if there's any questions/input that you would like to give the applicant, this is not, I don't want the application or anything like that. It's input. The applicant is clearly coming back with probably a revised site plan based upon what was discussed. So he's looking for some guidance from both the board and the public. So with that being said, if anyone would like to come up and ask questions or suggest revisions to the application, we'll entertain that right now. Sure, so please step up to the podium.
I just need to swear you in first, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sir.
Okay, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure. My name is Douglas Shunk. That's Douglas. Last name is Shunk, Shunk.
And your address, sir?
394 Colts Neck Road, which is just south of 402 Colts Neck Road.
Okay, go ahead.
First off, I wanted to thank you as well as Pioneer for providing me the opportunity of coming up here to express my concerns, my opinions. Thank you once again for the variance letter. I've been a resident of Howell for the past 32 years. You guys can't get rid of me. 5 years ago, my wife and I chose to purchase our first house in Howell.
Sir, I'm asking,
Sure.
not a statement of whether you want the application or not. I'm asking you, do you want additional buffering? Are you suggesting additional buffering?
Sure. No, yeah,
All right.
well, I was,
I
absolutely.
don't, it's not the time right now to make
Sure.
a statement, all right? So that's what I'm asking, if you can
Sure.
focus on.
So, a few of the questions that I do have are if fencing is being installed on the southern portion of the property, and if so, can you elaborate?
We weren't proposing fencing, were we? Existing.
No, there's some fence that starts at the back of it.
The fencing that's proposed is from the garage to the, what is that, west, east?
Well, everything's upside down here, so that's
Yeah,
actually
so the
west.
top is the southern part.
Right. So, Mark, why don't you point to the plan and show the gentleman?
There's a 6-foot-high fence proposed. Starts at the garage that's on lot 69.01. It runs west to the back of the property, and then it comes to the north to a point even with the front of our building. We had lined up the fence to stop on the 60-foot front yard setback from the highway.
So, Mr. Schnock, if I understand, you're the property just to the top of this property?
Yes, correct.
All right. Would you want that fence extended all the way out to the property line?
Absolutely.
Um,
At this point, the fence does not provide any privacy to my household.
Okay. And the type of fence, Mr. Lieber?
We were proposing a 6-foot-high board-on-board.
Is that acceptable to you?
6 foot. Now, would there be any sort of, I guess what I could say, like plants or trees that are being put in front or behind?
We were proposing to add some evergreen trees and some shade trees. However, those trees would be on this side of the property.
What's this side?
I mean, the fence would be on the property line, and then the landscaping would be
Okay, so
within our
so
property.
I would get the fence side.
That's
Right.
correct.
Is that acceptable to you?
I would recommend, if possible, that there be some sort of, I don't want to say a buffer in front of the fence, but maybe some sort of small tree or shrub in front.
Well, I see the problem is that if we do that, it's going to be difficult for the applicant to maintain it, because then he's got to go behind the fence, between the fence and your property line.
Understandable, understandable.
So,
Well, maybe, I mean, I just want to, maybe some light plants on that side, and make you stagger plants, I guess you could say, so the applicant can get in there and fix the fence if they want to. I mean, how much maintenance does the fence need?
No,
I
it's
don't
the
think we're talking about the
landscaping.
maintenance of the fence. We're talking about if we have plantings on the, for lack of a better term, the resident side.
Oh, okay,
So
got
if
it.
we shifted it, the applicant would have a harder time accessing those plants for routine maintenance. So what their proposal was the vegetation inside on their
Got it,
their
the
portion.
vegetation.
Really, at this point, my request is the privacy of my actual household. At this point, the fence is really only blocking my backyard.
so the applicant has indicated that he's amenable, and he will extend the fence for the whole rear yard, the length of the whole rear yard. Am I correct?
Side yard.
The side yard, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To Colts Neck Road.
Well,
Or-
as close to Colts Neck Road as we're allowed to. I don't know how close we can go without blocking sight distance for the driveway.
Understandable.
But, yes, but we will.
Understand. And just one more thing that I did want to bring up, and I know that the board had talked a little bit about it, was the lighting and being dimmed around 10 o'clock. Is that something that can be brought a little earlier? 10 o'clock seems fairly late, especially with a young child.
We'll discuss it with the client between now and next meeting. I'm just not sure.
See if you can do 9 o'clock, because I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
I think you're going to be medical offices, they're not going to be open in that late.
Yeah, no,
Well, it's a potential, this building could be an urgent care center.
yeah, we don't know, but
Right.
assuming it's
Well,
not.
we may know, because that seems to be what may be the distinction between a medical facility and a medical office building. So that, we may gain more clarity on that at the next hearing.
Absolutely. Right. But the applicant has indicated that 9 o'clock, and he'll go back to his words here.
Client.
Client, thank you.
But yeah, I don't think there'll be a problem, but we'll make sure we.
Mr. Alfieri, also, the type of LED, and I should have brought this up earlier, there's those bright, like, almost like blue, piercing LED lights. And then I think recently, that I've been seeing, the newest LED light has a glow to it. It takes away that sharp blue. Can we get some light, some more warm lights, as opposed to these bright LEDs that I think they're being phased out now. They're not using them as much, but just a warmer light, and as opposed to that bright,
Well, if you look at his lighting distribution, he doesn't really have any sharp, real bright
Good.
spots.
Again, our lighting guy is not here. I don't know. I just want to admit, I don't know much about lighting, but I know as much seeing these bright LEDs on the side of the road. Some of them are just so bright you can see it a mile away. They started using more warm LEDs, I think they're called. And if we can use the warm LEDs as opposed to the old school bright ones, that'd be better.
Are these downward throw fixtures?
They are. The temperature is 4,000 K. We could lower it to 3,200, which will change the color rendering.
That would be great.
Okay.
I think that was actually all of my requests or my concerns. Thank you to the board, and thank you to Pioneer.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up? Sure, please come up to the podium.
Okay, sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state and spell your name for the record.
Gary Shunk, Garyshunk.
Okay, and your address, sir?
542 Newton's Corner Road, Howell, New Jersey.
Okay.
You just spoke with my son. I had my son pick this house out, for his family, and by the time he
So,
moved...
questions?
Yeah.
Questions or input for the applicant? When the applicant's all done with his case, then you will have the opportunity to make any statement you like. I'm just seeking right now to give the applicant guidance as to how we would like the site to look.
Okay. I think the design shows no concern for the single neighbor that they have. There's one house there, and that's my son's. And the design here doesn't give them any privacy at all. They're showing these big trees that are on the property line there, and one of them is nothing more than a stump right now. And listen,
Sir,
you got a
sir,
10...
what are you
10
looking
Okay,
for?
10 foot, it's only a 10-foot, what do you want to call it, well, you don't want to call it a buffer, you want to call it a setback.
No, sir. There's a 10-foot landscape buffer required there. That is a buffer.
Okay, and then what's the 50-foot?
The 50-foot that was referred to earlier is a setback.
Okay.
With a driveway.
So there is no, so they don't have the 50-foot setback.
That's correct.
That's
That was what
correct.
we spoke about earlier.
But they agreed to have a fence all along the property line between your son's house and this property, a 6-foot-high board-on-board fence, and in front of that fence, on the applicant's side, there's landscaping. So they comply with our ordinance in that they are providing a buffer area.
So also, just to be clear, the applicant is going back after tonight, and they're going to redesign the plan. So what we're seeking is, rather than have them redesign the plan, come back and then hear from the public, to hear from the public if yourself, your son, or anyone else wants something specific to appear in the redesigned plan. If there's nothing, that would satisfy you, that's fine. But, after they come back with their new plan, you'll have an opportunity. So tonight, we're really interested in, is there something the applicant can put into the plan that would, make you more comfortable with it? But you're not required to say that there is. I mean, there could be nothing, and that's fine. It's just, we would wait till the next hearing to hear your testimony.
Mr. Shunk, if the concern is the privacy, would the height of the landscaping be something that you'd want to discuss?
Well, I think the concern is that looking out their windows, they're going to be looking at a parking lot.
Right.
Now they're going to be looking at a fence, not particularly something you want to look at and see a fence. That's why he's asking for some shrubberies or something in front to break that big, long fence up. How about moving the fence from the property line to where their parking lot is?
Well,
Move it 10 feet to the...
That's what we discussed, is that if we do that, then the applicant his landscaper has to go behind the fence, between the fence and your son's property line, to try to maintain those bushes.
Yeah, but now he'll have 10 feet if he moves the fence back to the parking lot. Right now, he has the fence right on the property line, or, I don't know, there's no fence there right now, but...
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
it's whatever whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, that's what Mr. Shunk would like to see.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's something the applicant can take into account when it's revising the plans.
I mean, our certified tree expert, Mr. Altieri, you're going to be talking to our certified tree expert to fill in any blank spots
Oh, yes,
between those big
Shari.
evergreens?
With Shari, yes, definitely.
Yeah, so he's going to talk to our certified tree, our landscape expert that we have before this board. She's not here tonight, but when next time they come back, she'll be here, and they'll have a plan to increase the amount of plantings between the trees they're trying to save. So I think that'd be good.
Okay. How about dumpsters? Can we move the dumpsters to the other side of the building? So he doesn't have to listen to the garbage trucks in the morning, and you know how they are picking up dumpsters.
We'll ask the applicant to take a look at that.
We'll look at that.
I think that's reasonable, yeah.
I had the same concern about the amount of paving being done on this little lot, but, I'm no expert on that, but it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to handle all that water, the big rain. The only other thing I think I had was, looks like you're trying to squeeze a big facility on a small, what used to be a residential lot, you know.
That's not a
Shoehorning it.
question, no.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that would like to come up? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of the public. So,
Again, thank you very much for your input, and we're going to look to Eileen for,
Based upon our calendar and giving you some time to meet with all of the different entities and revise the plans, we have a meeting October 4th.
October 4th?
October 4th, you would be the only application on right now.
that's the date I have up. Okay, that's perfect.
Just, I need an extension of time.
You want a letter or just me agreeing now?
You can put it on the
We'll
record.
say- Applicant will agree to extend the
next
time in
meeting,
which the
September?
board to review the
our next
application
meeting
through
is
the
in
end of
September.
October.
They're going
Perfect, thank you.
October 4th.
Okay, so just for the record, the application of Pioneered Howell LLC, case number SP-1037, be carried to the board's
October
4th, 2018 meeting, beginning 7 o'clock here in the main meeting room in Town Hall. There'll be no further notice to property owners, so if you received a notice in the mail, you will not receive another one.
Thank you very much again. Good night, everyone.
Okay, that's it for our agenda for tonight. Any reason to go into executive session?
Not tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.